Hi, this is Andre, and thanks for checking out Synthicopy. Synthicopy is integrating the wisdoms of history, based on fact and truth, into present culture. The roots being synthesis, history, and Sophie, as in philosophy. Sophie, the Greek root meaning wisdom, knowledge. Now, we gotta say, with history in mind, did you notice Trump raided the Fulton County election office in Georgia last week, seizing all the 2020 presidential election ballots? You have to wonder why. There's different arguments trying to answer that question. But the real reason is rather simple. Being the vintage narcissist he is, you know that Trump has never lost anything in his entire life, including his bankrupt casinos in Atlantic City. So he and the neurons firing away in his brain simply cannot accept the fact that he did indeed lose the election in 2020 by 11,779 votes in Fulton County, Georgia, over 5 years ago. So he's going to come up with some cockamamie statements saying this, and that happened, and the count in the 2020 election in Fulton was wrong, and that he actually won that election. And so he was really the winner of the 2020 presidential election. I won that election! It could be his October surprise. You see, his brain constructs a neuroreality that is far from actual reality. It is simply unreal to satisfy his narcissistic needs. Or you could say he's having a terrible tooth conniption fit. I won that election! And he can't accept the truth. Wah. I think the British, our parent country, summed it up pretty well on July 13th, 2018. When this 20-foot orange blimp was launched to coincide with Trump's visit to the UK. This would all be funny if our democracy wasn't in jeopardy. Praise to the citizens of Minneapolis who are standing up to ICE and the thugs supported by Trump and his authoritarian administration, trying to take power away from the people with violence, intimidation, and corruption. What is going on now in Minneapolis is similar to when the British occupied Boston from 1768 to 1770 and 1774 to 1776. Here are some quotes from the Boston Globe, article titled Boston in the 1770s, published February 1st, 2026. For the 2 years of the first British occupation, Bostonians and soldiers lived uneasily together, with daily irritations mounting. As with the presence of ICE in U.S. cities, there were questions of jurisdiction. In theory, royal governors were not supposed to order troops into action against American citizens unless local political councils requested it, which of course they never did. Does that sound familiar? The soldiers rarely respected local laws and traditions, and like ICE, often resorted to cruelty, simply because they could. Everyday encounters were brittle at best and could turn hostile quickly, with British sentries controlling passage throughout the town and demanding to know people's names, destinations, and asking for papers. At the same time, it was difficult to bring a British soldier to justice. One soldier shot into a Boston crowd from his window in January 1770, killing an 11-year-old boy. He was pardoned by the king. Bostonians were angry that their lives and laws meant nothing to the monarchy. Again, the parallels are stark. The Trump administration has repeatedly promised immunity to to ICE officers. Throughout January and February of 1770, tensions were even higher than usual. As with the current standoff in Minneapolis, the cold made everyone miserable. The cold also supplied weapons to the people, who were happy to throw snowballs and pieces of ice at the redcoats. An explosion was inevitable, and it came on March 5th with the Boston Massacre. Taunted by a crowd throwing insults and snowballs, British soldiers fired into it, killing 5. The king then pulled the troops out of Boston in the aftermath of the massacre. But 4 years later, as political crisis deepened, soldiers came back. They were again occupying Boston during another harsh winter, as 1775 turned into 1776. Once more, the locals and the soldiers squared off, provoking each other with all manner of insults and taunts. The British went out of their way to humiliate and dominate residents of the occupied city. Eventually, thanks to real ingenuity, American military engineers, led by Henry Knox, were able to drag cannons from New York's Fort Ticonderoga to Boston. And in early March, they succeeded in getting the cannons into position around Boston that threatened to demolish the British fleet. On March 17th, the fleet withdrew. 3.5 months later, July 4th, 1776, the United States of America declared its independence from Britain. I am confident that Americans will rise to the occasion on this 250th anniversary of our nation and save our democracy by taking action, as are the citizens of Minneapolis, and then voting, expressing their will in the November elections.